Right, speaking of the Prime Ministers, 3 years in, many would think the popularity of the BJP in India would, like many trends, see a bit of a dip. But a new report suggests that quite the otherwise. The following report looks at the findings of a Pew Research survey on how India fared in a poll on the popularity of governments around the world. Take a look.
3 years into power, and India's government, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has won the trust of 85% of the country's population. These are the findings of a Pew survey which says more than 4/5 of Indian citizens trust the Modi government. The trust level surpasses countries like US, Russia, Germany, Canada, France and Spain. Colombians and Peruvians show the lowest trust in their government. From clinching the mandate in 2014 with an overwhelming majority and the promise of Achhe Din, brand Modi has been unstoppable. Despite economic slowdown, tougher reforms like demonetization and the goods and services tax, Modi's credibility has stayed intact, and he kept getting rewarded in one state election after the other, be it the thumping victory in Uttar Pradesh or the civic body elections in Maharashtra, Orissa and Chandigarh.
Narendra Modi ji is the most loved, most respected and most popular leader, and that a vast majority of Indians are satisfied and have hope from his vision of development, the model of governance in terms of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and the building of a new India where everyone's aspirations can fly. And that's the important message in every survey.
Surprisingly, the survey also shows that 55% of Indians support autocracy, despite India being the world's largest democracy, and 53% support military rule, with 27% in favor of a strong leader. India is also one of 3 countries in the Asia Pacific where people support technocracy, along with Vietnam and the Philippines. At a time when the Indian government is facing brickbats on the economic slowdown, unemployment and its reform measures, the Pew survey comes as a huge endorsement for Narendra Modi and his team. Bureau Report, WION.
Right, so let's talk a little bit more about the brand of Narendra Modi and what sort of impact his image has on his popularity. Saurabh Oboweja, the founder and CEO and chief brand strategist at Brands of Desire, joins me in the broadcast right now to talk more about that study. Saurabh, thanks so much for being with us here at WION. Even in that report, we made mention of things like Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. There's also the Prime Minister's project, Beti Badhao, Beti Bachao. Do you think that his utilization of popular hashtags and popular trends, so to speak, with these kind of campaigns has been part of the reason why he appears to be such a popular person?
Sure, thanks. So, in order to build any brand, consistency is something which is often looked up to. I think an often ignored concept. When brand Modi began with his initial rhetoric, which was around Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, I think there was a very fundamental philosophy of being inclusive in his politics. And whether that means financial inclusion, from trying to get the poor people into the mainstream economics of the country, or it means trying to get the girl child or the other vulnerable sections of the society, be it the poor or the girl child, into mainstream economics of the nation. I think from that point of view, he's been quite consistent with his narrative over the years, and hashtags, I think, are only a manifestation of that. But overall, I think it's a very interesting mandate of this entire report as a concept that's come out, although it's more international in nature than very, very India-centric. But yeah, he does enjoy a great popularity even now.
Absolutely. And, speaking of I know hashtags, we can't really go into them too much, but he does use social media a lot. He does tend to, utilize it as a tool to reach out to people. And we know for a fact that Twitter has, Indians on Twitter are one of the biggest numbers when it comes to the social media application. So do you feel that he's also been, let's say, cognizant of these trends, so to speak, in terms of the youth and how they engage with social media and has used that to his advantage?
Yeah, in fact, not just Twitter, Facebook for that matter has probably one of the largest populations in India as active users on Facebook. Now, when a prime minister is extremely energetic, or to the extent that he almost comes across as a Superman prime minister, and for the rest of the world as well, not just for India as a very, very strong leader, but he's also somebody who's always adopted the latest practices, be it technology or digital. And in a way, he's kind of championed that concept, which today, interestingly, the other political parties are learning to, come up the ropes.
Right.
And they're also somewhat effective now in maybe trying to use the same tools which Prime Minister Modi was very, very successfully using, at least till a couple of months ago. But yes, digital today is not a medium that could be ignored by any standards. The influence on digital actually extends all the way to traditional media today. And I think there is a very thin line today between how digital and traditional kind of merges. But I would certainly recognize the fact that Prime Minister Modi has been one of the early adopters, probably learned a little bit from the way Obama ran his campaigns early on.
Right.
And obviously Donald Trump doing a totally different level altogether.
Absolutely.
In his campaigns.
He's used it in an entirely different way. And it isn't just Prime Minister Modi. I mean, if we look at the BJP and we look at the current government, even the External Affairs Minister, Sushma Swaraj, has really utilized Twitter. And she's built like a fan following in some ways because of her approachability. Do you think that's the key word here? The fact that social media in some ways gives otherwise unapproachable people this feeling of connectivity?
Certainly, because one of the advantages of using digital or social media is that it makes anybody, any brand very, very accessible. It's not just approachable, accessible as well. And accessible in a way that it's public to everybody.
Right.
So in a way that if you see any kind of a negative comment or a situation that needs urgent addressal, like a crisis in the case of Sushma Swaraj, where she's been very, very proactive in handling some of these international crises, it comes across as an immediate or an instant image building tool. The more proactive you project yourself, the better your image tends to get built, even if it's a negative issue which gets high priority attention. So in that sense, I think the current government has been absolutely proactive in using some of these new tools to the best of their abilities. I would give them 10 out of 10 on that.
Sure, and like you mentioned, a lot of other political parties are still playing catch-up when it comes to utilizing social media the right way. As far as the time of this report, I mean, we're talking 3 years in for the BJP. They came to power in 2014. It's 2017. We're 2 years away from the general election. So this is an interesting time for this report to come out, because there have been indications that, there is a certain amount of nervousness on the party in terms of maintaining that popular trend. Do you think this indicates that they might have at least secured 85% Indians' hopes in the last 3 years? Yeah,
I think it's a little bit difficult to make a deeper assessment into a report like this.
Right.
Given the nature that it's an international report, number one, it captures many countries and it's not specifically focused towards India per se, although the big data coming for India and India's specific data. What is important is the impact of demonetization on the general public.
Sure.
And today, or maybe before demonetization, maybe there was a little bit of a positive rhetoric or a narrative getting established as far as the Prime Minister and India as a nation is concerned. But right now, there are a lot of people who have kind of feel that there is a little bit of a shift in momentum in terms of the Prime Minister's popularity.
Sure.
But here is an extremely seasoned campaigner. This is still year 4, which has just began.
Right.
I think the Prime Minister that we have knows how to play the momentum really well.
Sure.
He certainly wouldn't want to peak at this stage. He's got 2 years to peak at the right time. And here is a guy who really plans things well.
Right.
So I think you should be ready for some amazing surprises, which are very, very, again, pro-inclusion kind of policies, which should get announced in the next couple of months.
And definitely part of his whole drive towards New India, and something that he talks about repeatedly in terms of his New India initiatives and his hopes for a New India. We'll leave it at that. Saurabh, thanks very much for coming here and helping us decipher at least the big data from this report. Appreciate you taking out the time.
Thanks.
All right, so that was our discussion on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his strategist, or rather his brand and his image, and how exactly everyone looks at him as perhaps one of the new leaders. Despite his age, he seems to be very popular with young Indians. So we're staying with India, and speaking of the country, for Hindus and everyone else who celebrates Diwali, today is Dhanteras. It's the day marking the beginning of the festival. Celebrations usually involve the purchase of new utensils for the home in either gold or silver, but some even opt for jewelry. Hindus believe that the goddess Lakshmi brings more wealth of this kind to households. It's no wonder that a number of people flock to stores across the country to celebrate Dhanteras.
Well, the Indian buyer will always find an excuse to buy gold, and what better time than Dhanteras ahead of Diwali. It is the festival of Goddess Lakshmi that celebrates Goddess Lakshmi, prosperity and wealth, and buying gold is the quintessential way of doing that. In Bengaluru, with video journalist Taraka Rampoguri, Nishtita, WION.
We've been seeing a very positive response to all these festive seasons. So the customer is coming out and participating in the category and buying jewelry during the regional festive period. We've seen anything between a 30% and a 50% growth in these regional markets, and therefore it is looking like a very promising Diwali. It's looking like the customers are responding to offers, they are participating in the festival, and they're choosing the category.
It's auspicious, and that's the time of the year when it signifies Lakshmi, and one way to hold Lakshmi is through jewelry. So that's why we prefer purchasing on Dhanteras.
We purchase gold because it is Lakshmi festival, and if we buy on this day, we think it increases our prosperity and wealth. So we just buy as a token of Lakshmi.
It's auspicious to buy gold on Diwali. Yeah.
You buy every year?
I try to. Definitely, yes. Yeah.
The Indian Supreme Court's ban on fireworks this Diwali in Delhi and the National Capital Region is set to bring losses to the fireworks manufacturing industry, especially in Tamil Nadu's Sivakasi in the country's south. With a turnover of close to $615 million, thousands of employees are feeling the burn of the order. However, business began as usual 2 weeks ago in Chennai, which doesn't seem to have been affected by the apex court's ban. A report.
Puneethan has been in the fireworks business for the last 25 years. And all these years, he says, the weather has been their only hindrance to business. Year after year, Puneethan and 100 others like him have set up stalls at this point in Chennai.
It's one day celebration. It is not 365 days celebration. Only one day celebration, how that pollution will affect. That even that vehicle, that the government should think other angle. Banning crackers is not for solution for that pollution.
The ban and controversies around use of fireworks has not stopped more people from entering the business, says Chenna Keshav, who began his new fireworks manufacturing company a year ago with 300 workers.
The window packing, the attraction packing, the
craze for fireworks will never end. We bring in new and attractive kinds every year.
Even while it rains, and even as a week is left for the big celebration, customers buzz around these shops for their yearly purchase.
We buy for around, this is only for gift, we buy around 5,000 to 8,000. Plus for the family separately we buy that.
However, there are those who believe there can be reasonable restrictions.
Delhi la pollution ரொம்ப bad condition la இருக்கறனால அவங்க ban பண்ணிருக்காங்க.
True that firecrackers do cause pollution. They can ban the dangerous ones, but complete ban is not reasonable.
Court திரும்பியும் reconsider பண்ணனும்.
Deteriorating lives due to pollution on one side and livelihoods at stake on the other side. A difficult situation where a balance between the two seems impossible. Regulation of usage and rehabilitation of these workers may seem like the way out, but that too is a distant dream. With video journalist Ram Revthirajvan in Chennai for WION.
And the recent ruling by India's top court has placed a ban on sale of firecrackers in the capital, New Delhi. It's upset many small-time traders, but the markets still have something to offer for the citizens of Delhi. WION's Jessica Taneja takes a closer look.
Will this Diwali be a silent one? Well, that's a question now. After the Supreme Court's ban on firecrackers in Delhi and National Capital Region, the markets still have few interesting products. For example, here you see a Chinese product. This is an electric cracker. So once I use this remote and press the button, this one can be too loud and will keep continuing for a very long time. Well, that was loud. But then again, there are few more products in the market right now. For example, this is a pop-up. Once I take one of these and throw them on the ground with force, they will burst and of course create pollution as well as noise. And then there are these baby toy guns. One shot and there you go. But then again, Delhi and National Capital Region has decided this Diwali is going to be a green one and a silent one. Well, we hope it's still the same. This is Jessica Taneja with media journalist Naseem for WION in New Delhi.
And Diwali is definitely in the air. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took to Twitter to wish everyone a very happy Diwali. However, his wish sparked a bit of a different kind of fire. While his tweet read, and I quote, "Diwali Mubarak, we're celebrating in Ottawa tonight," end quote, Twitterati quickly jumped at the Canadian Prime Minister's choice of words, associating the word Mubarak, which is often used in traditional Muslim greetings, with the Hindu festival of Diwali. Some users decided to let this slide out of love for the Canadian Prime Minister, but many others urged him to use words like Badhai, which means congratulations in Hindi. But the Indian High Commissioner to Canada, Vikas Swarup, was quick to appreciate Trudeau's presence and participation in the celebrations that were held in Ottawa. Last month, the two countries issued their first joint stamp featuring diyas and fireworks.